Today's video is going to be somewhat of a story time. What happened 24 years ago when I came to Canada? Is it possible to get a car for $1? Stay with me to find out. Hello everyone, my name is Kola. Welcome back to this side of life. And if you're new here, welcome and thank you all for joining me today. So in today's video, I am going to go back memory lane and tell you about my first year in Canada. As you may know, I came to Canada 24 years ago. And when I was coming, I was very pregnant. I was like almost 9 months gone in my pregnancy and was about to have my child. If you've watched my previous videos, you will know that I had just gotten a job in a big oil and gas company and I had to leave because by that point we had been working on our visas for 4 whole years and it finally came through, and so we were like, yeah, we need to go. So we left everything, our jobs, our lives, our family, and everything that we had up until that point as newlyweds, and with our first baby on the way, we left Nigeria, we left the shores of Nigeria, and we embarked on the journey to Canada. Now in Canada, we did not know anyone except for a friend of my husband's who was his former classmate way back in uni days, and that was the only person we knew, and he lived in Ontario, and so we headed to Ontario. And we will be forever grateful to that family because they took us in, accommodated us for a few days, and after which we decided to move from Ontario and come to Alberta, because at that time, and I think it still holds today, that you had to be 3 months in Ontario before you were covered by healthcare. And like I said, I was about to have my child, so in Alberta, you are covered right away. So we took a flight from Ontario and came to Alberta, and so began our first year experience in Canada. That first year, I cannot forget the kindness of Canadians, including Nigerians, other immigrants, and even Canadians as well, like Caucasian Canadians. Like I told you, we didn't know anybody else apart from our friend in Ontario, and he connected us with another Nigerian family in Calgary, and they actually accommodated us for, I think it must have been up to 2 months. And in their house, we had our baby. These are people we did not know from anywhere. We didn't know them at all. The only thing that connected us was that we are all Christians, and they opened up their home for us, and we had our baby there. And we had lots of Nigerian grandmas that helped with bathing the baby. First time mom, didn't know much about babies, and we had all this kind, just good people that helped us out and made it easier for us than if we didn't have anybody, especially being first-time parents and in a new country. I mean, the weather was different, the people, it was a different environment. And by the time we were ready to move out of our friend's accommodation into our own accommodation, we had so many people help us out. I remember there were people from the first job that my husband got then, which was just a transition job. He had this lovely white woman that just kind of took us like her children, and she showed us where to get mattresses for free, where to get household utensils, pots and pans. In fact, there's one pot that I got back then that I still use till today. And she was so kind to us. She will invite us to her house for dinner, to go out with her and her family. It was really a great experience of kindness from Canadians. And one of those experiences that really, really stood out to us was when after we moved to our own place, we started going to a church, and we would strap our baby like with the baby carrier and take the bus and go to church, and after church we will wait for the bus to take us back home. And one of these days when we were waiting for the bus, there was this white guy and his family, and they just stopped, and they were coming from church too. They just stopped in front of us, and he's like, "Where are you guys going?" And we told him where we were going, and he's like, "Okay, just wait there." He went and dropped his family at home, came back, picked us, And we became friends, and he did this multiple times until one day he asked us, are we looking for a car? And we're like, yeah, we would like to have a car because that would make things easier with the baby. Then going back and forth would be easier for us. And he said, well, I have a car I can give you. We were like, what? I have a car I can give you. So yeah, but in Canada, to exchange ownership, you have to exchange money, I guess. So we had to pay some money for the car. And so we paid him $1 for that car. And yeah, that was our first car in Canada, and we got it for free from a white guy. So how much more of a kindness, how much more kindness can you expect from anybody? So that was one experience that really, really stood out for us in our first year in Canada. So that's how we got a $1 car. So when people talk about racism, I think before you point a finger at somebody, you should look at yourself. How do you treat other people? How do you treat people that are not like you, people that do not look like you or come from the same place as you do? Before you start calling somebody racist, have you looked at yourself? What about you? The Bible talks about taking out the log in your own eyes before you can see the speck in another person's eyes. I think the world would be a better place if we actually do that. I have experienced some discrimination since I came to Canada, and especially in that first year because I was new. I was trying to settle in the new environment. But I can tell you that discrimination is a human tendency. Like, we all have that tendency to gravitate towards people that look like us, people that are from the same place. Like we say, parapo, even within Nigerians, the ethnic groups tend to gravitate towards each other. So yeah, that is a human trait. But from my experience, majority of people are kind. Majority of people are good, no matter what their skin color is. Most people are good and most people are kind. The people that are not are in the minority, especially for us as Christians. Whether we are black, white, brown, or whatever color we are, we need to show kindness to our fellow humans and be the light wherever we find ourselves so that we can contribute towards changing the world. Moving on, apart from the people and the kindness, another thing that stood out in that first year for us was adapting to a new environment. So many things were different. The first one, and the one that hit us because we landed in February, was the weather. It was so cold. I remember when we were driving in a taxi from the airport to our friend's house in Ontario, we were seeing this smoke coming out of all the houses, like the chimneys in the houses. And we were like, what is going on? Why is there so much smoke coming out of these houses? But it was because of the cold. Like, it was so cold. Like, everybody had their furnace going, and you could see the steam coming out of all the different houses. So that was one thing that we had to adapt to, the weather. It was very cold. You had to learn how to dress warmly for the weather and not get frostbite, especially if you were taking public transit. Your fingers will be frozen by the time you walk from the bus stop to the house, and you might get to the door and you cannot even open the door because your fingers are frozen. So we had to adapt to the weather. We had to adapt to the food. Nowadays it's different. We have so much Nigerian food being imported, but back then there was not a lot, and even if you got Nigerian food, it was very expensive. So we had to adapt to the food, the kind of food that we could find here in Canada. We had to learn about the culture. You don't say "sama" as much as we used to say it in Nigeria, and you call people by their names even if they were older than you. You had to really adapt to that. You had to adapt to keeping the time. There's nothing like African time here. When you say it's 10 o'clock, it is 10 o'clock. So we had to learn that and be open to new ways of doing things. And even the language, we had to learn the language culture. Like, for example, they don't say toilet in Canada, they say washroom. Or if you go to McDonald's and you buy something, you don't call it takeaway. You say to go and not takeaway. And dustbin is not dustbin, it is garbage. And what about soft drinks? They call it pop and not soft drinks. So many things that you have to adapt to here in Canada, and that hit us hard that first year. If you're getting any value from this video, please give us a thumbs up, hit the like button so that we can reach more people and grow the channel. Thank you very much. The next thing that we had to have during our first year in Canada was patience and resilience. I always talk about knowing your why when you come to a new country and when you're starting your life again in a different environment. Because your why is what is going to keep you going, is what is going to push you to be successful in your new environment. You also have to believe in your goals, and then you believe in God to help you to be able to achieve those goals. So it is a process and it can take time. So you have to be patient. For example, for me being in the IT industry and also just having a baby, I had to wait because I couldn't leave my baby and go to work. I had to wait a few months before I could go to work because I had to take care of my baby. So during that time, I did everything I could to get myself ready for when I would be able to go back to work. And for my husband, he's in a professional field where he has to write certification exams, and he was also studying for that and writing the exams, I think 3 stages. So yeah, all that took some time. And while you are doing all that, you will need to get a transition job, like a job to pay your bills, to survive until you get that job that you really want. Even with the transition job, you need to keep your goal in mind, the goal of the job that you really want. So don't get stuck in a transition job. And I said that in one of my previous videos, which I will link here or here. Don't get stuck in a transition job. Keep your focus on that goal and work towards it. And so for me, after about 6 months, I was able to go out and look for a job. And I thank God for the people that God used for me, who gave me that opportunity and gave me that leg in, because I'm sure you have heard about Canadian experience. Like back then, it was a huge thing. It's like, you don't have Canadian experience, we cannot hire you. But then how do you get the Canadian experience? And I got my first job in a consulting company, and that was my first job in Canada. And also for my husband, he passed all his exams, he got his job in his profession, and he was also settled. And the rest, they say, is history. So yeah, we thank God for that first year. So I just want to encourage people who are just moving into Canada, or you're planning to move into Canada, that yeah, even though it's rough in the beginning, the people are kind. You will find people that will help you, so long as you are open to receiving the help, because some people, they don't want to get help. And even there are government agencies that help newcomers as well, provide you with basic necessities. Like I said, we got mattresses, we got household utensils and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of help. And so long as you are focused and you have a plan and you work your plan and you are patient and resilient, it gets better. That's just what I want to encourage everybody, that it does get better. It may start rough, but it does get better. And you do have to have the right mindset as well. You can survive and you can thrive, being an immigrant in Canada. So that's a quick look at my first year in Canada. And I hope you are able to pick 1 or 2 lessons from there, and also that encourages someone out there in their journey of being an immigrant. Yeah, don't despise the days of small things. Things do get better. That's my message for today. That's all I had for today. Thank you so much for joining me again. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever I upload new videos. And also, comment down below. Let me know what you think about today's topic. What was it like in your first year in Canada? And what advice would you have for somebody who is going through their first year in Canada? You might also like to watch this video on the screen next. Until I come your way again, until the next video, you go out and make it the best days of your life. Bye.